guys, it's May the 22nd, 2024, and today I want to talk about depression and anxiety. A lot of us have been using alcohol as a way to self-medicate ourselves in order to get rid of our anxiety and, help with our depression. And one of the biggest problems with alcohol is, especially with depression, is alcohol is a depressant. And we start to feel down, feel depressed, and what do? We drink in order to make ourselves feel better. But I'm sure a lot of you guys know what I'm talking about here. The alcohol just exacerbates the depression. It just makes it worse. And the more and more that we drink, the more down that we get, the more depressed that we start to feel, and we really start to kind of sink into those negative thoughts and those depressive thoughts that we have. I can think back to so many times, when I would be depressed and I would start drinking, and how after I started to get, I got to that point where I would start to feel buzzed, and everything kind of washed away for a little bit. But it didn't last very long. And as I started to get more intoxicated, the more I kind of cradled into those depressive and negative thoughts, and would really start going down a rabbit hole into just thinking negatively. And especially when I would get into an argument with someone, I can think about so many times that, getting into a fight with someone, and then going and just getting extremely intoxicated, and my mind would just go off in these, horrible places. So many times I thought about just doing the most irrational things, and sometimes I did do some really irrational things. I just did, ridiculous things, and for some reason, and I don't know why, when I would drink and I would get angry, I had this idea, like I had to prove how angry I was, and that I don't know why that was. I don't know why when I would get drunk that I had this idea, like if I broke something, it would prove how angry I was. And since I stopped drinking, I don't get like that anymore. I don't get that urge to break things. I don't get that urge to punch anything or anything like that. And, just thinking back in times when I used to drink, how many times I would slam the microwave door, or slam the refrigerator door, or slam a door, or break something, or punch something. And I broke so much stuff over the years, just being so ridiculous. And I just don't know why I did those things. The only thing I can imagine is that I wanted to prove how angry I was. And just looking back now, and how angry I used to get when I would get to drinking, and then when I would be angry or depressed or whatever, and when I drank, it was just like pouring gasoline on a fire. It just made everything so much worse. And that's what I wanted to talk about today, and some of the practices that I've used over this period of time, because I've really had to work on myself and how to manage those feelings, how to manage my actions, and what I've done to control that. And that's what I want to talk about today. So let's just go ahead and talk about like getting into an argument with somebody. And this is something that would happen to me quite frequently. And people would often say things to me, you're drinking too much or whatever, and I would get extremely upset when people would say that to me. I felt like I was being attacked, and I heard it a lot. A lot of people, especially my family members, would tell me that I needed to slow down, I needed to stop drinking, and I would get, extremely defensive, and I just felt like everybody was attacking me. And I would get really upset about it, and I would lash out. And, and then if I got into an argument with somebody about whatever it might have been, I would just keep going and going and going. I remember so many nights, especially if I got into an argument with my wife. I would like follow her around and just keep arguing with her about stuff, no matter what it was. Um, and she would try to walk away from me, and I would follow her. Let's say we were in the bedroom arguing about something. She walked away into the kitchen to get away from me. I would follow her in there and just keep going on and on and on. And I never got anywhere with that. And if anything, it just created, so many more problems. And then it would be like a whole week ordeal. I would have this, big fallout with my wife, one night, and then we wouldn't talk for like a week. She'd be upset with me, and I'd have to go and apologize. And then I would get upset because, she would be, I don't really know how to explain it, but she wouldn't really be responsive to me. And, when I would go to and apologize to somebody for my actions, and at first when that would happen, like in the beginning of my drinking, when I would get like that, I would go and apologize, and I could tell, that they got it, and they'd say, okay, I accept your apology, and they'd be receptive to what I was saying. But as time went on, and I guess, my outbursts and the things that I would do continued to get worse. And, you can only apologize but so many times, and people eventually just started getting like, whatever, I'm really getting sick and tired of this. And that would frustrate me even more. And I can think back of so many times, when I would go and say, hey, I'm really sorry for acting that way last night. And it was just kind of like laissez-faire kind of attitude, like, okay, whatever. You could just tell, or I could tell that they didn't believe me. And, it's like, okay, sure, yeah, all right, yeah, you're going to stop drinking. And that's another thing that would really frustrate me too, is I would say, I'm gonna stop drinking. I'm gonna stop drinking. I mean, how many times did I say that? Thousands and thousands of times I said I was gonna stop drinking. I mean, I said it almost every single day. And you keep crying wolf over and over and over again, and people just, okay, sure, whatever you say. And you could just tell, it's just when I looked at them in the conversation, that they were just like, yeah, okay, all right, sure, yeah, you're gonna stop drinking. And it would really upset me, because I'm like, why don't they believe me? And deep down, I really wanted to stop, but I just couldn't. And every time I would try, I would just go right back to drinking again. And I just kept falling on my face over and over and over again. But my point to what I'm trying to get to is that, with the arguments and, disagreements and all that kind of stuff, I would, just keep carrying on back in the day, trying to win the argument, trying to win that conflict. And what was the point? There was none. All I was doing was just pouring gasoline on the fire, making the situation worse, and it wasn't solving anything. And one of the things I've learned over this period of time, and something that I practice now, is, and one of the things I want to talk about, is that I have never, ever in my life won an argument with anybody. No one. There's never been a time that I can ever reflect on and go, even a simple disagreement. I've ever had a conversation with somebody and they went, okay, you're right, or whatever. And the whole carrying on and trying to, you want to be right, and you're going to keep fighting to get your point across, like you're going to be right. I've never won an argument, ever. So now I just realized there's just no point in it. I can say what I have to say. If there's any sort of disagreement, whatever it might be, with anybody that I might be talking to, if they don't, if they're not hearing what I'm saying, or I can tell that my point's not getting across to them, I just walk away. There's just no point in carrying on any longer, and fighting and getting angry and all that kind of stuff, because it never leads to anything that's good. Like I said, I've never won an argument. No one's ever said, yeah, you were right about that. Okay, whatever. Now, I've had it happen days later. I might have gotten into an argument with somebody about something, and then way later on down the road, maybe like, a week or 2 weeks later, they'll go, hey, just so you know, you're right, but I wasn't going to admit that to you, why you were screaming at me, or why you were, so angry, and whatever it might be. Uh, they'll say it then, but never in the heat of the moment does that ever get resolved. So now, if any of that kind of stuff arises, I just walk away. Um, there are so many times that, that my wife and I might have a disagreement about something, and I don't argue with her anymore. I don't argue with my friends. I don't argue with my family. If there's something, I just walk away. There's no point in it. There's no point in getting myself all riled up, over a simple disagreement. Um, I just don't entertain it any longer. If there's a problem, I just simply walk away. Uh, it can and because I still do get upset, I still get angry. I'm a person just like anybody else. Um, I have emotions just like anybody else does. But what I do now, and I know this sounds kind of cliche, but I just walk away and just and I cool off. And it might take 10 minutes, it might take an hour, but I walk away, and a lot of times I'll walk out into my woods, and I'll just sit down for a little bit, or I'll get in my van and I'll just leave for a little bit and just go for a short little ride, and give myself an opportunity to just cool off, get my head thinking right again. And then I'll come home, and and then I still won't even try to talk about it that afternoon or that evening, whatever time it is. I'll wait till the next day to talk about it, um, because people still might be upset, and I just don't want to get into an argument with anybody, because I know it's such a trigger for me. Whenever I would get angry or upset or anything like that, the first thing I would do was just go get extremely intoxicated. And I don't want to trigger myself like that anymore. So like I said, whenever I get into any kind of conflict with anybody, I just give it space and I give it time. And I let everybody cool off. And then once we are able to talk about it like adults, and everybody's, level-headed, and if anybody starts raising their voice, I walk away again, until we can actually talk about it like civil human beings. Um, and that has just helped me so much, tremendously, not to entertain those types of arguments, that type of nonsense, because it never leads anywhere positive. Unless you can actually have a conversation with somebody in that moment and nobody's raising their voice, and you guys are actually speaking to each other, and you're trying to work your way through whatever the problem might be, because we all have problems, and we're all individuals, so we all have different ideas, we all have different thoughts about certain things, and that's okay, because I mean, if we were all the same, life would be pretty boring. But at the end of the day, not blowing up and exploding and letting all this stuff fester, just walking away from those types of situations, and not entertaining it, because at the end of the day, you're never going to win a battle. It never leads anywhere positive. Give it some time, walk away from it, let everything cool off, and then come back and address it later. Another thing too, sitting down with a pen and a piece of paper, writing down all the things that you want to talk about. I found that to be huge and helps out so much, because often when we're trying to, talk about a disagreement, we'll forget our points, and the things that we want to discuss, because we start to get angry again, and you can't remember what you were going to say. I found that just stepping away from the situation, getting a pen and a piece of paper, and just writing everything down, how I'm feeling in that moment, the things that I want to discuss with that other person, and then coming to them later after everything's settled down, the dust is settled, and then having all these notes written down, and I can sit there and discuss and go, hey, okay, I need 5 minutes, and then I'll give you 5 minutes, and let's talk about this. And I found that to help so much, because like I said, getting in arguments, getting angry is a huge trigger for me, and I just don't want to go back down that road again. I'd rather discuss it and and be civil about it rather than scream, yell, argue, all that kind of stuff. Because there were so many times I would get into a fight with somebody, and the first thing I did was just pour a huge drink, disappear, and, just go get totally sloshed. I'd get into a fight with my wife, leave and go to the bar, and then, I would be out all night long. What did that solve? It didn't solve anything. If anything, I created more of a problem by doing that. Another thing, too, I wanted to talk about today as well is depression and those depressive thoughts. Because often we drink in order to rid ourselves of those types of things. And, we start getting depressed. We drink to numb ourselves, to step away from it. We want to get outside of our head. And the alcohol works for a little bit until it doesn't, because, it has an opposite effect later on. It might, take your mind off of it for a little bit, but at some point, you're going to start going down that slope of the negative thoughts. And, man, do they start getting really negative. And that's, just think about, I talked about this a while back, about crime associated with alcohol. Because when we're drinking, we're not in our right mind, for one. We lose our inhibitions, we're not thinking properly, and we do really irrational things when we're drinking, especially if we're really angry or really depressed. A lot of domestic violence happens when people are intoxicated, things like that, abuse. And it's because we're not thinking. We're thinking with this like childlike mind when we're intoxicated. It's what's going to please me in this moment. What do I want right now? And I really think that's the case. When we get intoxicated, we're thinking in a childlike manner. We're really letting our subconscious wants and desires kind of take over what we want to do. But when we're sober, we're not thinking that way. But when we're feeling depressed and we get these really depressive thoughts and all this kind of stuff, and one of the things that I have found for me, because I've had problems with depression my whole entire life, and I still do. I still get depressed. It happens often. And especially when I start thinking about, the things that, my diagnosis and that kind of stuff, my mind can really start to wander and down some really dark paths if I'm not careful. But one of the things that's helped me tremendously is just realizing when those things are happening. I can't stop the negative thoughts from coming in my mind. I can't stop my mind from going in these certain directions, because it's just going to do it. But what I have found that has helped me tremendously is to realize when that happens and just being aware. When I start getting into that negative mindset or that depressive mindset, I realize what's going on. So let's say I start thinking about the fact that I have cirrhosis, and I might be in the middle of doing some task or something like washing the dishes or something, and I'll start thinking about the fact that I've got cirrhosis and how much longer do I have to live, and when am I going to get sick again, when is the ascites going to set back in again, when am I going to end up back in the hospital again, and all these kinds of thoughts. I realize what's going on, and I stop it right there, and I just change my thought pattern immediately. So if I start thinking about my health condition, and my mind will just start going down this path, when I start to realize that's happening, I go, okay, stop right there, and I make a mental change in my thoughts immediately. So if I start thinking negative, I'll realize what's going on, and then I immediately stop myself, and I'll start trying to think about something positive. Start trying to think about things I'm grateful for in my life. If I start thinking about the fact that I'm sick, then I have to change my mindset and go, well, you're here right now. You have today. You're not sick today. You don't have ascites today, and you're not in the hospital today. So what are you going to do with yourself today? Let's find something positive to do today. Let's find something to make ourselves happy. And as soon as I realize that I'm going down that path and I change that mindset, things start to get better immediately. I just don't allow myself to keep thinking in that pattern. Because like I said, we can't help the thoughts that are coming through our head. It's like, because if we did, we wouldn't drink at all. I mean, think about it. You know, you wouldn't even have, if you could control every thought that goes through your mind, you wouldn't have cravings. You would just turn the craving thoughts off. But we just can't do that. But what we can do, and it's just like with cravings, if you start thinking about alcohol, just change the thought process immediately. Just stop thinking about it and find something else to focus your attention on. Think about that, you know, whatever it may be. You know, think about your child, or think about your hobby, or how the universe was created, or whatever it may be that you want to think about. But just have something that you can automatically switch your brain into thinking about, opposed to those negative thoughts. And I'm telling you, it's just helped me so much. It's just realizing when those thought patterns happen and just changing the course and going in a different direction. I know that sounds like it's just like this magic thing, and it's so easy to do, but it really is. Just stopping that thought process. Don't allow yourself to continue to think those negative thoughts. Change the thought course. Go down another path. If they come back up again, do the same thing again. And don't allow your mind to fester in those negative thoughts, because that can be a huge trigger. And, you know, we don't want to go back down that road again. But like I said, I just wanted to talk about this today, and you know, kind of throw this in here, some tools as a way to kind of you know, help ourselves you know, work through these certain periods in our life that can be big triggers for us, because the depression, the anxiety, the arguments, all that kind of stuff can be big triggers, and we have to realize when they're happening. Being mindful of our thought processes, and knowing when these things are starting to happen, and addressing it immediately, and not letting it to continue to happen, because, you know, like I said, you know, one bad thought could lead to a mishap, and falling back off the wagon again, and picking the bottle back up again, and then going through that whole process again. Not saying there's anything wrong with relapse, because it happens, but doing everything in our power that we can to avoid relapse from happening. And I really think that just being mindful of our thought patterns when these things start to happen, and really trying our best to change that thought direction into a more positive direction, opposed to letting those thoughts fester. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to talk about that today. It was on my mind this morning. It's currently, I don't know, I think it's about 10 o'clock in the morning. I've been trying to get these videos done early every day and getting them up, and still don't have my high-speed internet yet. That should be happening soon, but I found that if I get these videos done early in the morning, they upload a little bit faster. I guess everybody else is trying to upload or do whatever in the afternoons. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys are enjoying getting these videos up earlier every day. And thank you so much for watching today. I really do appreciate it. I love you guys so much. And I will see you in tomorrow's video. Bye-bye.